Name of the show is The Way to Go. My name is Alan Bendich. I'm going to be your host. And I have a very special guest. He's been on my show many times, and I anticipate he'll be on it many more times. Now that I have my show once a month, I really want to only have people who I feel close to and I have a connection with. And this young man and I go back for years. And he's a very special person. He's an artist. He's an interior decorator, and he's a person who my father loved and I cherish as a friend. And he's Andrey Gordon. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
So we're here to celebrate The Rascal.
Yes.
It's the 10th anniversary of The Rascal's first shooting.
The 10th anniversary of the first day that we filmed. We're filming this on July 31st,
Right.
2024, and our first day of filming for the opening scene of the show was July 31st, 2014.
But I'm sure there was some work that you had to do before you actually started shooting. When did when did you first start, thinking about the concept of, and first of all, how old were you when you first started thinking about making your own show?
Well, I had been involved with LMC since I was like 10 years old.
Right.
And I think a few years, and maybe when I was like 12 or 13, I started thinking about what it would be like to have my own show because I've been working on everybody else's shows.
Right. And what were you doing on everybody else? When you say working on them, what was the functions that you worked on?
I mean, I started out doing camera and eventually transitioned into working audio, prompter, just any position you could.
So you were doing everything, but you were doing most of the things that. Could you even work the board? Were you able to do that?
I don't think I was working the board at that point. I think when around the same time I started working on The Rascal is when I started working the TriCaster for the local live.
And how old were you when you started doing that? About?
That was about when I was 14.
Unbelievable.
But yeah, so when we came up with me and my friend Felix, who was also a volunteer here at LMC, we came up with the idea for The Rascal together. And it was a pretty quick process from us coming up with the initial idea to when we filmed the first scene. I hadn't even finished writing the whole series when we filmed that first day. It was just like we had this idea and we wanted to go for it.
And you had a cast. Who is part of the cast for the first scene?
Well, the first scene was Felix worked on the crew. He held the boom mic, and his sister Stella was playing the role of the little girl, and then we had the wonderful Al Bayo as Larry Crawford.
Right. I remember seeing that, and it's pretty awesome, actually. And so what happened after that? I mean, so you started, how long did you shoot the initial? Were you doing like the premiere episode, or were you doing a teaser? What were you actually filming in the beginning?
I mean, it really was just, we wanted to like hit the ground running. We didn't have a premiere date. I mean, I didn't even have any of the lead actors cast yet. Right. This was just the opening scene of the show. We weren't going to do anything with it at that point, except we knew it was going to grow into this bigger thing.
And the equipment came from LMC, right? I mean,
yeah.
So it was like, that's one of the beautiful things about this studio, is that they give an opportunity to young people and old people, the opportunity to live out their dreams, and to do things that are outside the norm of regular life. I mean, this is showbiz. This is, it's creating on a different canvas, So what happened? Continue with your story.
Well, I think we came up with the idea in like a month or so before we started filming that scene.
Yeah.
And we were just hanging out at their house one day, and I brought up the idea of that I'd want to do a show, and we were playing this game that like they came up with, which was like a version of tag, where we run around and his sister had a line that she would say, which is, "I'm going to do the rascal on you," because Rascal was the name of their cat And
Interesting.
so
that's
that was where that came from.
right.
And when she said that, I was like, this sounds like a line from a horror movie.
Wow.
And I was like, what if we turned the rascal into like a monster, and what if the monster was in the guise of this little girl? And that like just catapulted the whole.
So that was like it clicked, right? I mean, all of a
Yeah.
sudden, all these things happened. So what was the next step? I mean, you got the go ahead. I mean, did LMC provide any other assistance in terms of doing this, or was this basically you and Felix? I mean, like, how did you continue forward?
I mean, initially I did all the editing at LMC as well.
Right.
On the computers they had at the studio.
Uh-huh.
And the equipment all came from LMC.
Right.
But we literally just came up with the idea for that one scene at his house that day, and we're like, we're gonna film this,
Right.
and it's gonna go somewhere.
So when did you actually start shooting the show after that?
The bulk of the show we didn't start filming till like a year later.
Wow.
Like I was 14, so I was in high school at that point. During like my study hall hours, I was sitting there writing episodes. They said we couldn't like work on on non-school related stuff, so I ended up writing them in my notebook, the episodes, instead of typing on the computer.
Now everyone's gonna know. Uh-oh, you're busted.
Yeah, like at home somewhere I still have the handwritten drafts
That's
of
wonderful.
episodes. But like so like I was just I became so invested in making this
And
thing.
I could totally relate, because when I was doing Scriptless, I'd wake up every morning and all of a sudden I'd have this like flood of storylines and things I wanted to do with the show. And it becomes like an obsession, right? I mean,
Yeah,
but it's one of these obsessions that really, it drives you. It drives you.
yeah.
So so you started writing it down? Were you actually writing down storylines, or were you actually writing down scripts?
I was writing the scripts. Like,
Wow.
I had like, I'm the kind of creative person that when I see it fully formed in my head. I don't always. I mean, it's not always people don't always like saying this, but like I don't always like the process of like making like the ideas or the storyboards or things like that,
Right.
because I am such a visual person, and like I see it and I make it happen.
Right.
And that was really the case for this. It was just one thing after the other, and the story just came to me.
So before you started actually shooting the show, did you have all the scripts ready, or did you start with some of the scripts ready and then you started shooting and then continued, or was it all laid out ahead of time?
I think I was still writing some of the later episodes when we started filming the first 6. Initially, my original plan was that it was going to be all one season in 2 parts. That ended up not being the case. We ended up doing 2 separate seasons of 6 episodes each.
Right. Yeah, so it was interesting. How did you get, so when you made the decision, you had to actually figure out, first of all, how you're going to shoot it,
Yeah.
who's going to work as crew, and who's going to be, the cast.
Yeah.
How long did that take? I mean, that's a process, right? I mean, to make sure you got everybody on board and all this other stuff. And,
Yeah, well, after we filmed the first scene, I immediately edited that, and I was showing that to all my friends, and everyone was like, "Oh my God, this is so cool!" Like, and then once I feel like I wrote the show with people in mind,
right.
because like I had to have the inspiration from somewhere for who these people were going to be.
Right.
I ended up, like, I knew I wanted you to be in it.
And I wanted to be in it, so
Yeah.
it's good. So it's nice when that happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was like a no-brainer. And then I had met Rebecca Berman working on the local live,
Right.
and
She's a talent. I
yeah,
mean, she's
multi talented.
But she has that energy too.
Yeah.
She got it all. It's amazing.
Yeah, and I just like she just like fit the vibe of like who I wanted for that.
And she's easily directed. I could tell the way when you told her to do stuff. She was good. She was good.
Yeah, everybody made it work, even though like nobody was getting paid. It was all volunteer.
Well, yeah, I mean,
we were all doing it in our off time.
We're doing it for fun and also for you.
And
it wasn't just for us; it was for you as well.
And it really, like, even though some days were harder than others, we did have a lot of fun over the 5 years that we were working on the show.
It's unbelievable, right?
Yeah.
So, and also your school allowed you to film there, right?
Yeah.
That was cool. I mean, you're, people are drawn to, I have to put it that way, because, I mean, not everybody would be able to do what you've done. As a matter of fact, I don't know anybody who's been able to do what you've done. I mean, going back in time, I guess, you've won awards for work that you've done.
Yeah.
You've been a dedicated person since you're like 10. I mean, where does this drive come from? I mean, your parents must have done something right. I mean, something happened.
I've always had so many different interests, and my parents really just anything I wanted to try, they let me try. Obviously, when I was younger, they tried to get me into the different sports and all the things that like you would think that people would.
Right. Because that's how parents think, Okay.
Yeah. They're like, let's get him into kickball. Let's get him.
It's tough to figure out exactly who your children are. You know what I mean? Because parents, I know because I'm a parent. Parents have this one vision of who their children are.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden, like flowers, they just emerge, and it's like they're unique people. Yeah. And you just have to let them, blossom, whatever.
And not all parents will listen to their kids when they say, hey, this isn't for me, I want to try this.
Right.
But my parents literally...
You got awesome parents.
Yes. Anytime I said, like, this isn't for me, they're like, yeah, okay, then let's move on and find the right thing.
Yeah, and you found the right thing.
Yeah.
So when you first started filming, what was it like? I mean, I know that your father worked on it also. I mean, he helped you with some of, bringing. Yeah. I remember the food that you brought to the set. He'd be your part of the crew, and you actually were the camera person a lot of the times, right? I mean,
going back to the first day.
Okay.
We didn't know. I mean, it was all new.
Right.
We got the equipment. Felix and Stella were coming over. I had cast the grandfather of my neighbor down the street to be the character of Larry Crawford in the show, and we're like, let's go for it. And it was really a fun day, and obviously, and not everything went exactly according to plan every second of the day, but we made it happen. My next door neighbor, the couple that live there, let us film at their house. I brought a clip.
Oh, I was wondering when you were gonna. You want to share it with them?
I have a little behind the scenes clip of what that first day was like.
Okay, so let's check it out. Let's check out that clip.
Yeah.
Rolling, Al. Action. Come on.
It's not my first TV show.
Oh, it's not your first TV show?
No. A long time ago, a wrestling organization lost their license in Jersey. Called John DeRario and their show to ask if they use the Little League field and set up a ring. We were setting up the Little League field in time for a game. They asked somebody to, believe it or not, speak to a camera and explain what was happening. So they gave me a flowered shirt that was 10 sizes too big. And I sat there looking up at the camera, explaining where we were and what was happening. And then I had to moderate the show. Okay? Which means I had to grab these big wrestlers and throw them around.
Wow.
Yes.
Good practice for this role. This TV. And how was it for you holding that thing? What is that called?
Oh,
Called the food work.
does he have to? My name is Gerardo Barrero from USS News. Why are you holding that camera and microphone in front of my house?
Hey, Lauren.
Hi. Thank you so much.
Anytime. This is fascinating. That's a wrap.
Wow.
Yeah.
That was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
That was great. So, I mean, how did you how did you set up that shot? You know, that clip.
I mean, the clip that I put together that behind the scenes
Right.
clip just when I was originally like anticipating like a DVD release.
Well, you know, it's never too late. That's
Yeah.
the one thing. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like it's. Yeah, I still think about Scriptless, about
Yeah.
putting it out someday.
Yeah.
But I mean, you have all that. You have it now.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, and LMC has it. So what happened next?
Well, going back to the casting.
Yes.
I had written all these episodes. I started thinking of the different people. Like I went to Rebecca one day after Local Live,
Right.
and I was like, I'm working on this show. Would you like to be in it? And she was like, sure. And she's like, great, I'll do it.
Right.
Having no idea what it was going to become.
Right.
But it really like you were saying, we had so much fun, and everybody really
So
stuck with
who
it.
else was on the show?
Lewis.
Lewis. I know Lewis. Lewis actually shot the first episode of Scriptless.
Oh,
for me.
really?
He was, and we were supposed to have 2 cameras, but we had 1. And that day we lost a mic, which I had to pay for. I just remember that. And we filmed it at, what's the name of that bar at the end?
The Duck Inn.
The Duck Inn. Thank you. See,
Yeah.
another senior moment from
Yeah.
Alan Bendich. But it was great. I mean, he was all in, as he is all in for LMC.
Yeah.
And who else did you have on the show?
Well, the lead actor was a man named Mike Orsino,
Right.
who's actually an arborist, and
Yeah, but he seemed like a tough guy on that
Yeah.
show, man. He's a tough guy.
yeah. And when I talked to him about doing the show, he was like, I used to do acting classes in college, and I'm like, I had no idea.
Wow.
I'm like, perfect, you're in.
Right.
So it was just like that. Like I just asked people, and everyone just like jumped at the chance to be a part of it.
And how about the first day of shooting with the cast? What was that like for you? Was it like were you nervous that day, or?
The first day that I filmed with the main cast,
Right.
we didn't film any of your scenes that day, I
Right.
don't think, but we filmed at my house. My grandmother came over to be a part of it. My friend Sarah, who actually ended up being
In the second season? Or?
no, that was my cousin Sarah.
Oh, okay.
I had another friend Sarah who was one of the kids that was in the Halloween episode,
Right.
and she helped with some of the camera work and boom mic holding
Right.
throughout the series. She came over to help that day. We set up we had a pop-up tent. We had snacks out.
That's one thing. You had the best snacks
Yeah.
and the best drinks. It was fun to. That
Yeah.
was part of the fun of working on your.
Yeah, LMC even sent someone from the Local Live that day for the first day of filming to
Wow.
cover it as a news package on the show.
That's so cool.
So it really that first day really became like an event,
Right.
and it was like, wow, we're really doing this.
Right.
And then that was in 2015, and then a year later we had the first season wrapped,
Right.
and it came out in October of 2016.
That was cool. I love the poster that you had of the,
Yeah.
that's somewhere around here, I guess, or is it in the other location at this point?
I think they must have it somewhere. But it's probably.
Right.
I don't
And I
know.
love that poster. That's a
Yeah.
great one. I mean, I have the doofiest look on my face, but that's
Yeah.
okay.
I remember I took the for the season 2 poster.
Yeah.
I had taken pictures of the cast while we were filming one day,
Right.
and I don't know. I think you may have had to leave earlier that day
Right.
that we took the pictures, but I came. That you were filming The Way You Go one day, and I set up in the hallway with the lights,
Right.
and I had you put on the lab coat. We took the pictures, and then you ran back to go film
Yeah,
your episode.
that's my IMDb page photo. It is so cool. I like it.
It's funny that they automatically change pictures sometimes.
But that was a cool one.
Yeah, it's a
I
cool
like
picture.
the coloring in there. It's really nice.
Yeah. Speaking of the IMDb stuff, yeah, I made an IMDb page for the show. I
Right.
have all the whole cast and episodes and pictures all up there.
I know, it's great.
Like I really did like I wanted it to feel as much like a real show
Well, it
as I
was
possibly
real, you know,
could.
and the thing is, still, it's fascinating that such a young person. Well, first of all, everyone at LMC TV loves you. You know what I mean? You worked on every aspect of it, and everyone, including my father, couldn't believe this young kid, was doing all this stuff. But so the season ended. When did it hit the television screen?
The first 6 episodes aired from October to November of 2016.
Right.
It premiered after the local live. I made it a big deal.
And it was a big deal. I mean,
yeah, but I was always looking for like the marketing opportunity, like or how to like.
it's good. It's good.
Yeah, like when I did the season 2 premiere, and I was like hosted by Mike Witch from the local live.
Wow.
Like I was always doing like the plugs of
Right.
the different shows.
And did you get a lot of feedback from it afterwards when it?
Yeah, everyone that has watched the show is always so
They love
impressed, and
It was fun working on it.
Yeah.
I mean, especially in the lab, that was crazy. But
yeah. I think that people don't always expect to become like as invested in the story as they do when they're watching it.
I know, and people, do get addicted to shows, definitely.
And I think one thing about The Rascal, because the episodes are like they're like 6 to 13 minutes.
Right.
It's very easy to just sit there and watch it.
Right. If it was longer, a lot of times people might just, people
Yeah.
have limited, attention
Yeah.
spans. So you're right about that. So that was season 1.
Yeah.
When did you decide to do season 2?
Season 2 was always part of the plan because it was initially just supposed to be combined with season 1.
Right.
But it just for the sake of being able to release stuff before it was all completed,
Right.
I just wanted to get something out. So I'm like, we're gonna break it into 2, and it worked out fine because I had that planned in the storyline anyway. So a few scenes from season 2 were filmed at the same time as we were filming season 1.
Sort of like Back to the Future had 2 and 3 filmed at the same time, or whatever it was,
Well,
1 and
yeah.
2.
So we had some footage in waiting for that.
Right.
But a lot of season 2 was also filmed like after season 1 came out, like 2017, 2018, and then it premiered in 2019 in September.
So when are you going to start shooting season 3?
I mean, in 2026 it's going to be the 10-year anniversary of the premiere.
Right.
I feel like we have to do.
I mean, the
something.
least we should do is have a movie.
Yeah, we should do. I think we should do some type of like.
I think
like
LMC
reunion.
would be, media would be happy to do that, especially
Yeah.
bring back the characters. Let's see what
Yeah.
happened to them.
Yeah, I want to do some type of like. Reunion.
And you have to have a walk-on,
Yeah,
at least.
I mean, I did play the police chief in season 2.
Well, so now you could be the governor. Who knows?
Yeah, we'll see.
That would be great. So that would be something, actually, because that's one thing. I know that LMC TV currently is like doing a lot of short films and things like that.
Yeah.
But I think maybe they could go into the realm of even making features, maybe or
Yeah.
hour-long films.
Yeah, so
Something like that. I mean,
I definitely I've been thinking about ways in the future to continue the story.
right. I mean, I was always thinking about doing that with my dad because he had gotten shot. I was going to do the laundromat and things like
Yeah.
that. But we started shooting it kind of on when after we filmed a couple of episodes of Scrupulous,
Yeah.
when we still had the equipment over the weekends. And but it never, we never finished it. But I still got some of the footage and all that
Yeah.
stuff. But I think maybe why not have a reunion show.
Yeah, I would love to pull that together.
That'd be great. And I have no work to worry, to
Yeah.
screw up my schedule. I do go on a lot of cruises, though. So how did it end? I mean, why did it stop?
I mean, I was in college by the time we were wrapping season 2.
Right.
It was the beginning of my sophomore year. I remember the weeks leading up to the season 2 premiere were like the craziest 2 weeks of my life.
Right.
Aside from the fact that I had roommate problems that for those first 2 weeks of school because there was a switch in the housing.
That sucks.
Yeah. So on top of that, I was living on campus 2 nights a week.
Right.
I was filming. We were filming episodes over the weekend.
Oh, crazy.
I filmed the premiere party special on a Wednesday night.
Right.
And then I had to be home on Friday for the premiere. So like those 2 weeks, it was back to back, back and forth. And we filmed some scenes on a Wednesday night also. So it was like Saturday. It was like weekends, Wednesday, weekend, Wednesday, back to back filming,
Crazy.
and then classes during the week. So I was literally driving back and forth every other day.
Right.
And then I was editing till like
Oh, right.
2 o'clock in the morning sometimes. There was like a smoke animation I had to do for the premiere. Like
I guess you are a driven person.
Yeah.
So I guess
it was just
it took over your life in a way, right? I mean,
yeah.
But it is your life.
And I literally the morning of the premiere, I think I emailed Stefan the file like literally
Wow.
that day.
Wow, it's amazing. But you also have like again we're talking about The Rascal and its 10-year anniversary. You have visions of other potential shows that you want to do down the line, or
Yeah, the moment that The Rascal ended, I announced I was in development of a new series. Then obviously COVID happened, and I finished school, and I'm working now.
Right.
So I have 2 episodes of that written.
right?
So maybe hopefully down the line, I'll be able to dive back into
Yeah,
that.
but again, I think you're smart not doing it now because you got to get yourself established, and as you're doing well,
Yeah.
and you are doing well in your job, so it's and you don't want to be exhausted when you're working.
Yeah, but I do have aspirations to continue.
I remember when you
film.
were a young boy, you talked about one day having your own studio.
Yeah, that's still very much an alive
But
dream.
here's this little 13 or 14-year-old telling me that he's going to have his own,
Yeah.
one day, but I believed it because, again, I just remember this little kid, and my father was amazed at you, and there were other young people, but you were really dedicated. You were there every week. Your parents would pick you up every week, or every time, not every week, every time that I was on a show, 90% of the time, because you were doing other things as well in your life, but you were always there.
Yeah, I did. I spent a lot of time at LMC. Essentially, it was my second home for all those years.
Not a bad place to. I mean, it's a nice playground. You
Yeah.
know, it is. And the things that you learned in working at LMC, people go to college for. I mean,
Yeah.
you probably got a better education at LMC TV than people who go to NYU for 4 years to learn about making films and stuff like that. Because you actually, not only were you you wound up directing, writing, but you actually became technically able to use all the equipment in a studio.
Yeah.
I mean, you could have chosen that as your what you did for a living if you had wanted to.
We don't have to get.
Oh, okay.
I'm saying we don't have to get into all of that, but like I think part of the reason I didn't choose that was because of all the experience I had at LMC.
Right.
Because I would have. I mean, obviously, there's always more to learn.
Right.
But it would have kind of felt like I was starting over.
Oh, right.
Because all of the stuff I did at LMC really wouldn't matter in a film program.
And that's true, and exactly. But at the same time, it made you the person who you are. You were the person, but it helped you along,
Yeah.
the travels of your life.
And it helped me in other ways. It gave me like the confidence to do like whatever I set my mind to.
And you are confident.
Yeah.
And one day I think you will have that studio,
Yeah.
or one day you will have a string of things that when you have the time
Yeah.
and the motivation to do it. I think that you could do anything with the time and motivation.
Yeah.
I mean, with your motivation
Yeah.
to do it. I'm excited to see what happens next. I hope I
Yeah.
continue to have energy enough to, if asked to participate in those things, but I'll definitely be watching it, even, when I'm 90 years old, looking at, the screen
Yeah.
and seeing something that says, by Andrey Gordon.
Yeah.
So it's just so interesting, man. Your
Yeah.
life to me it's amazing. And it's really, it's a testament to your parents. Again, I keep on going back to that, allowing
Yeah.
you to allowing them to see who you are.
Yeah.
And allowing you to grow up and be
Yeah.
the man that you are now. It's just, it's wonderful. It's
And
just great.
and really going all in to support
Right,
and
100%.
and facilitate me creating all these things.
And
that
look
I've
at you
created.
now, just look at you now.
Yeah.
Well, I really, really enjoyed talking with you today. And I enjoy talking with you every time we get together.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, there's just one thing left to say as I mumble that last line. That's a wrap. Good night, folks.